In the 1980s, IKEA was unknowingly funding one of the Cold War's most brutal secret police forces. While shoppers in Sweden were assembling cheap furniture, Romania's Securitate was using that money to torture political prisoners. Yes, seriously. The Securitate, not Securitate, although he has been using similar methods, was Romania's secret police formed under Soviet guidance in 1948. They targeted enemies of the people or anyone that they didn't like. It's been estimated that 1 in every 43 Romanians was a Securitate agent, and they employed techniques that would make Count Dracula look soft in comparison. Forced entry into people's houses? Routine. Planting microphones to spy on their own citizens? Standard practice. Assassinations? Plenty. They even forced some people to undergo repeated exposure to X-ray machines just to give them cancer. And then there were the torture methods. Some were standard for Eastern Bloc secret police forces. Others, pure nightmare fuel. Take the Pitești experiment, which ran from 1949 to 1951. Prisoners were forced to stand all night facing a wall, had their souls burnt, and endured unspeakable psychological torment. But the worst? The cat torture method. Securitate agents would take a live cat, shove it under a prisoner's shirt, and then beat the cat. The terrified animal would claw its way out through the prisoner's back. There are actually others I can't even mention on YouTube without getting banned. But you get the point. This was a regime of pure horror, and the people suffering through the Pitești experiment, most were guilty of one thing: being religious. They had to be re-educated. Imagine believing in God, and this is the result. The Securitate's reach extended far beyond torture chambers and prison cells. It had its claws in every aspect of daily life, turning Romania into a nation of paranoia and fear. Informants were everywhere. Your neighbor, your co-worker, even your own family members could be feeding information to the secret police. It's been estimated that there were around 500,000 informants in Romania, although the true number is likely higher. Children were encouraged to report on their parents, and a single offhand joke about Ceausescu could land you in a forced labor camp for up to 10 years. People lived in constant fear that a casual conversation at a cafe or a private letter could be intercepted, with over 2 million each year being intercepted and read by the government. The Securitate controlled the media, rationed food, and dictated where people could live and work. Even the ability to own a typewriter was tightly regulated to prevent the spread of subversive material. Romania under Ceausescu wasn't just a dictatorship, it was a prison where the Securitate held the keys. So anyway, how did IKEA fund these guys? By the 1980s, Nicolae Ceausescu's Romania was drowning in debt and desperate for foreign currency. To secure hard cash, the Securitate was tasked with running a series of covert financial operations. One of their most effective schemes was overcharging Western businesses for Romanian goods, then siphoning off the inflated payments into Securitate-controlled accounts, where they could gather interest before these Western companies would ever find out, if they did at all. You know when you've been overpaid and people just tell you to throw it in a high-interest account and make some free money? Same concept, except here, the extra cash was used to fund state-sponsored terror. IKEA, the Swedish furniture giant, unknowingly became part of this scheme through its dealings with the Romanian state timber company Technoforest Export. This is similar to how North Korean workers today are planted in Russia at logging companies and provide desperately needed foreign currency for the North Korean government. Documents from the National College for Studying the Securitate revealed that IKEA paid inflated prices for furniture, believing that they were securing a cost-effective deal. In reality, the excess payments were funneled back into Romania and ultimately into the Securitate's pockets, effectively funding the very regime that was torturing and oppressing its own people. These funds didn't just pad government coffers, they directly supported the Securitate's brutal tactics, which included mass surveillance, political repression, and horrific torture methods explained before. The secret police used the money to sustain their operations, ensuring that dissent was crushed and Ceausescu's grip on power remained unchallenged. When these revelations surfaced, IKEA launched an internal investigation to assess the extent of its involvement. The company expressed regret, stating that its business arrangements in Romania during the 80s were considered standard for the time and that they had no knowledge of the Securitate's role. But while IKEA distanced itself, the Securitate met a very different fate. In 1989, Ceausescu's iron grip finally slipped. The Romanian Revolution erupted, and within days, he and his wife were captured, tried in a Rush military tribunal, and executed by firing squad on Christmas Day. The Securitate, once the most feared institution in Romania, collapsed almost overnight. But justice? That was another story. Despite their brutal reign of terror, hardly anyone in the Securitate was ever held accountable. The vast majority of former agents never faced trial and even thrived in post-communist Romania. One striking example, Constantin Angelace, a former high-ranking Securitate officer, went on to become the executive chairman of Dynamo Bucharest Football Club. The Securitate remains one of the most brutal and barbaric secret police forces in history, yet their crimes are relatively unknown compared to the KGB or the Stasi even. Their legacy is a chilling reminder of how authoritarian regimes manipulate economics, business, and foreign interests to fund oppression, and how, even after a dictatorship falls, the people who ran it can escape justice entirely. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next.